You're welcome back to The Pulse. Now, the Nigerian High Commission to Ghana has refuted claims that the supposed evangelist Vandal, who was involved in the limited voter registration exercise scandal at Tema, is a Nigerian. According to the High Commissioner, findings of an investigation they conducted into the allegations revealed that there is no truth to the claims by both the media and the police. She was addressing a news conference in Accra today.
In the course of our finding out, we realized that this man supposed Nigeria might not actually be a Nigerian, because there are rules guiding confirmation of nationality, which I believe is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. It cuts across all countries. You should be able to know the local government. You should be able to know what are the intricacies in your country. And in our findings, we realize that we come into conclusion that this suspect named Evangelist Vandal is not a Nigerian. We don't have his name in our database. Neither has the Ghana police provided evidence to validate the claim in the report. So it was more like saying that he is a Nigerian. The person in question has also admitted that he is not a Nigerian. So if I'm going to ask evidence, I would have loved to say that he might have said he's a Nigerian. Then let me have some documents on you that point you to a Nigerian. But he is saying that he is not a Nigerian. The evidence could be that on his own, which may be required, give us something concerning your nationality as a Ghanaian or any other nationality. But the fact still remains that from my own point of view, the way we make interrogation, we ask people that says that they are Nigerians, they do not have the document. Which of the local governments are you from? You don't need evidence. If you cannot substantiate, because we all have our native and dialects that we can easily say, this is a particular person from this area. And when that could not, we could also ask a Nigerian to speak the language the person is claiming to have. So all these are not necessarily written documents, and they don't need to be evidential document. It's a matter of confirming that this is a person from this particular community or this particular state. And in this case, the man Mimi insisted he is not a Nigerian. There is still need to further investigation. The evangelist Vandal is not by our criteria of determining who is a Nigerian nationality that he did not meet it and is not a Nigerian.
So that's the clarity coming from the Nigerian High Commissioner to Ghana on that issue relating to Evangelist Vandal, him being a Nigerian who had registered in some parts of the country. Well, from the commission, you're saying that they've done their own investigation. It shows that he is not a Nigerian, and he's not a Ghanaian, and they want to disassociate themselves from this man who is purporting to be a Nigerian. Now, it's time to talk about something which you regularly not see in a newsreel, but it's happening in our space today. You know that if you buy, especially the Daily Guide newspaper or even the Daily Graphic these days, you would see a cartoon of what is happening in the country today. It could be the black narrator or the popular Akusia in the Daily Guide newspaper. But it's beginning to become a trend where artists are looking to fuse the news we do and put it in an artistic form. It could be a cartoon, it could be a reel of something that's happening around us. The question is, what is influencing this trend? How is this going for us? And are we getting inspired and influenced by the things we see artistically being drawn for us? Joining me in the studio today is a man who has drawn a number of them, which is making a lot of rounds on social media. His name is Bright Akwe, and I know him even before all of this business started, even for social media. He joins me now in the studio. Bright, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Francis.
And for those of you who may be wondering what I'm talking about, there's a picture I'd want to show you. Some weeks ago, we interviewed Bram Akamuko right here, Bukom Banku, in our studios, him justifying why he is bleaching. And I think this is the perfect illustration of that interview we had with him. Let me just show you this picture on the page right now. Yes, that's the picture of Bukom Banku looking, as he will call it, Banku flesh. with the man he says he's supporting in this year's election, President John Mahama. He says he's Banku flesh. That's how he says it. That's for Brahma Kamoku. But this is just a depiction of the kind of things that artists are doing today in translating the scripts and the analysis into visual things we can see and appreciate today. He joins me now in the studio to talk a bit more about this new trend we're seeing now in our country today. Bright, once again, you're welcome. For many who do not know why you do this, tell us why you do it.
Okay, so we would call this satirical illustrations. And I believe satire satire about a very serious issue gives like the audience an entry point into discussing some of these sensitive topics and so.
Okay, and is this something that you are joining a global appreciation of, or this is just something you started off on your own?
Satire about popular stories have existed ever since, but I think in the past year or two it has become a trend Ghanaian artists are beginning to experiment with more actively. Yes.
Okay, so Bright, for those who do not know you, I know you as an artist, but what shot you into the limelight recently?
I've been doing a lot of work, and for like the past year, I have been doing satirical illustrations actively. I think somewhere around February, I had a work which trended on social media, which captured a story around the insults that were being traded between Honorable and Japan and then the Efia Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
I think since then, a lot more people began to pay attention to the satirical illustrations that I do.
Okay, and generally, for the reactions you get, for the kind of works you do, has it been more of people criticizing you for depicting certain individuals in this way, or has it been more of praise and laughter?
First of all, the initial reaction is always the laughter. And then for some of the issues which are very, very sensitive, people begin to make more salient discussions around them. And it's some of these discussions that I'm interested in as an artist.
And it's interesting you say satirical illustrations, because we've seen examples in certain parts of the world. And the one that really comes to mind is the Charlie Hebdo episode in France that saw a whole media organization attacked by a religious group who felt that these satirical illustrations, you call it, were hurting people's feelings, and they had to attack them. Don't you get worried about that other side of it, that maybe the things you illustrate may be hurting other people's feelings?
Well, this is art. I think artists have always and will always have that artistic or poetic license. Then again, a lot of the issues that artists like myself decide to tackle in our work need to be worked on, irrespective of, it's just like you doing your journalism. Some stories you tackle would obviously step on a few toes, but
it's easy for you to do. Okay, so is this like your way of simplifying what we say and analyzing news in the cartoons?
You can say simplifying, you can say advancing or extending some of these conversations, because a lot of these works like need a lot of very good research for the work to speak.
What goes into the kind of research you do for these things?
Okay, first of all, I look at what the issue is. I look for a very, very funny side with which like I can do my work, and then, like I said, it serves like an entry point for people to like discuss the more critical issues. Okay,
someone just prompted me to this, but the inscription on your T-shirt, does it speak to your personality?
Yeah, this is a shirt made by 2CD, who is a designer, fashion designer in Accra here. And the idea, it's like taking some of these grand narratives and then stamping our signature on them.
So what are you saying with this?
Yeah, I think what it says here, Duna, is something that Africans are blessed with. And so we take the Puma. It's like their Puma is our Duna, something like that.
Okay, interesting, interesting. So let me show a bit more of the things you've done and what has inspired the kind of pictures you've put together. Let's put this one up. This was of a man who's been popular recently with tweets and attributions to him, President Robert Mugabe and the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II. What's this about?
Okay, so I call this nonagenarian things because both leaders have crossed the age of 90. But then there is always pressure from the Western media that Mugabe should step down. And then his reaction is always that oh, when the queen steps down, I will step down, blah, blah, blah. So I used that narrative and then also looked at the instance where like her birthday is celebrated across the world, like former colonies, excuse my use of the word.
Okay.
But looking at some of the reactions towards these things, how some of these leaders are viewed here and then by Western media, local media and all that.
Do you think that for the kind of conversations that go around these pictures, it's meant to engender a certain thinking for the young people today with the kind of drawings you do?
Yeah, the first thing I'd like to inspire anywhere is for people to question confidently anything that they are shown or narratives they are presented with. Question it. Look for how these things serve you politically or otherwise. So, like, I think artists or the general public should be able to question a lot of these things that come to them.
You do. Okay. Let's show the next one here. And this is one I've been particularly interested in. This is a picture of the late President Gaddafi and Barack Obama with blood on his hands and crying. Is this about his Obama saying that his decision to invade that country, Libya, was a wrong decision?
Yes, it touches on that topic, especially because also Gaddafi referred to Obama as his son in his last speech before he was overthrown and killed. And then I also alluded that to the biblical narrative of the prodigal son who had to go back and beg his father for forgiveness. So it's like a mix of all these various narratives put into one solid picture, which I created.
Okay. Now, this is one that I'm sure anyone who sees it will relate to. This is the Uhuru Kenyatta, the president of Kenya. And when he visited us for the 6th March, you remember the gaffe that happened with the brochure, don't you? Is this what this is all about?
Yeah, this was very, very simple. It was just my, like again, satirical take on the incident that happened with the brochure at the Independence Day celebration. Yeah, so it's just a character of Uhuru Kenyatta making fun of a goat, which is like a recurring character in a lot of my work.
Okay.
Yes.
Why? What's the symbolism with the goat?
Okay, so the goat, since the president diagnosed himself of a dead goat syndrome in Botswana somewhere last year, the goat has come to symbolize a certain character where people don't pay attention to very, very pertinent issues that they should pay attention to. So anytime I want to depict such a narrative in my work, I represent it with
you put the goat there. So
yes.
The goat personifies who?
It can be anyone. It can be anyone who turns a deaf ear to very, very pertinent issues.
So that's the dead goat that you have over there.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at another slide and then we can wrap up the conversation on what Bright has been doing. And this is another one that's been trending a lot on social media. That's the first president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, holding, what's that? Is it a game he's playing?
It's a remote control for a drone, which is in the form of a helicopter, carrying some amount of cash somewhere.
An interesting, okay. And this is in relation to which story?
We flew a lot of money to Brazil in 2014.
Okay.
And it was a big issue the world over. So I put that narrative in this one.
In this one.
Piece.
There's Ameri in there, there's
Yes.
Gizmo in there, there's the Kappa badge in there. Is this to signify something? What are you saying with this cartoon?
To simplify it, 59 years, Ghana's birthday, and then I symbolize Ghana with Nkrumah's character. These are the gifts we have presented Ghana in the last year or two, and so he's playing with it.
And you think he's happy playing with it?
Well, he seems to be happy because he's not doing anything else. So, yeah.
Interesting. So, what is this for you? Is this a business, or you're adding to the general newsreel and simplifying text into pictures?
This is my project. This is my research as an artist. It's just a medium for the real thing to be done, which is extending these conversations, generating these conversations, getting people talking about critical issues easier than they would if they were to approach them like very, very seriously.
And you remember when I started off this conversation, I made reference to certain individuals who've been doing things in newspapers.
Yes.
Often we see the name and it's a pseudonym. We are unable to put a face to it. Do you think there's a reason why we've moved from that era up until now?
Yes, people use pseudonyms because perhaps they fear certain reactions from some of the characters that they depict. But then I believe this is a free world. You shouldn't hide to speak the truth. I haven't slandered anyone. It's just satirizing real stories. And so I haven't felt the need to hide my work behind a pseudonym or anything like that.
Have there been times when you draw up a cartoon and you realize that no, this could go to slander one individual or another, and then you wipe it off?
I haven't wiped anything off yet. I have a series I'm working on called Very Graphic and another one called Very, Very Graphic, which I'm hoping to exhibit in the next few months. And those collections are some of my most explosive or touchy topics. I have shared snippets or small pieces of these series on my social media, but I'm hoping to share a lot more on. Like,
there's one I saw which was done in pencil, yes, of a certain lady sitting on a chair, yes, with two buses. Yes. Is that a bus branding scandal you're looking at?
Yes, I am working on that, and it's something I hope to share in the coming days.
Okay. Do you think Ghanaians appreciate or understand what you're doing here?
Yes, yes. Yeah, people have responded very well on social media. I'm looking for ways to extend the medium for like sharing even beyond the internet space, and so people have always contributed positively to it. So I think, yeah, people understand.
And recently you won an award for the kind of works you're doing.
Yes.
What award was that?
It is called the Kwenyehia Prize for Ghanaian Contemporary Art. And I was awarded by a panel that was headed by El Anatri, who is, I think, the biggest African artist ever. And so, yes, for me, it was like a big encouragement for me, because I felt like, okay, the people we look up to are recognizing what we are doing, and so more work needs to be done.
Okay, so for the country we live in today, do you see the arts being something which will grow and boom and become a really big contender in an industry to blossom in Ghana today?
Yes, the arts is already making like achieving some of these things locally and then globally. Local artists from Ghana here are making like very, very significant work in global exhibitions, and you can see how much like power of influence artists even have here in Ghana. And so I think, yes,
there's more to come.
Yes, there's more to come.
Okay. Now, I promised that there was a lot more I knew about this gentleman, even beyond what he does with the art he does. In fact, her mother is someone I know from my secondary school days at Accra Academy. He's laughing, yes, because we used to go to her late at night to go buy bread, late after to go buy bread. And I know him from school, from Accra Academy, so that's where the link is drawn. But Bright, as we wrap up this conversation, what's your plan for what you do in art for the next 5 years? What do you want to achieve with what you're doing?
First of all, I'm looking to grow my body of work. I'm looking to have curated exhibitions with some of these pieces. I'm looking to enter physical spaces like the streets with the work, and then also I'm looking to have opportunities to publish locally, internationally, and then have curated shows internationally.
Okay. Pratakwe, thank you so much for joining us here on The Pulse, sharing very interesting cartoons with us. Satirical illustrations that we see on social media, we click, we open, we laugh, we close it, and then we go back. But this is something being done to translate the script, the analysis of news, into something we can imagine with cartoons. Interesting conversation we've had this afternoon. Let's move on to some other issues here on The Pulse. The Greater Accra Regional Minister, Nilaya Futagbo, has blamed the failure of government sanitation programs on the attitude of the citizenry. He was speaking at a ceremony where UNICEF presented vehicles to the local government ministry.
For some time now, at the presidential level, at the ministerial level, and even at the district level, we are all pushing and then telling Ghanaians that you can't just be moving around and then throwing refuse and then just dumping garbage wherever you find yourself. We have even given out some containers, so at least when you are even walking in town, or maybe you find yourself in the city and you have any paper or any refuse in your hands, don't just leave it on the street. Drop it into the garbage can, so that at least we can clean, we can just make our city very clean. But people still go ahead and then drop this kind of papers and garbage on the street. It is not the best. This is individual character. This is what we call indiscipline, and which is a problem that we have all identified as a problem for the nation. We are not going to sleep. We are not going to just relax. It is not easy to handle human beings at the district level, at whatever level. We'll make sure that people learn how to clean our cities and make sure that we all contribute for us to have a clean city. It's not about one-man show. It's not about maybe the regional minister pushing for this agenda. We should all learn and learn that we can turn Ghana into Abuchi.
Now, UNICEF's country representative for Ghana, Susan Namando Ngongi, made the presentation.
Part of the challenge is that too many people think it's normal to actually defecate in the open. Too many people don't recognize what dangers that brings in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of the wider development aspirations. And a lot of these things are behaviors. There are certain behaviors that we have. And if everybody in our community has the same behavior, sometimes it's very difficult to change. So behavior change program is really, especially the one related to WASH, is community-led total sanitation. It's really a process that walks a community through the process of understanding what open defecation is. It actually works a lot on disgust. It really brings people to feel disgusted by the fact that there's so much poo in their midst, and to really recognize the danger of having all of that next to them, and slowly brings them as a community towards commitments of what they can do to make that better. So at the first instance, it might be just dig and bury. So you're not putting out in the open for the flies to come and stand and do their business, for children to mash it and all of those things. You dig, you bury it. That's the first step. And then you slowly work your way towards having your own toilet where you can safely and with dignity defecate. Actually, we're working in 5 regions right now. There's Northern, there's Upper West, Upper East, there is Volta, I forget the 5th region, I believe Central. But there are 5 regions that we're working in. But I think the real collective challenge for everybody is how to scale up. So right now what we're doing is along the lines of trying to demonstrate a strategy that works. We're working with government. This is very much part of government's own strategy. It's the rollout of the rural sanitation strategy. So we're still at the phase where we're trying to pin down everything that works, document it so it can be scaled up massively across the country.
Right then, so at this point we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, there's something happening in the Ashanti region that's caught the attention of the Small Arms Commission. We'll look at that and how it's related to the 2016 elections. Details after the break. Stay with us.